So one more thing I want to talk about when it comes to prepping and precious metals. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching Yankee Stacking. I want to thank you so much for watching my prior two videos about why I'm a prepper stacker, what I stack and why I stack it. I really appreciate it. If you're new to my channel, you check those videos out if you haven't watched them, and definitely subscribe. I really appreciate it. But this one's going to be a little different. This one's about role models. This is about being inspired. I mentioned my father in my last video, how he brought me to a coin shop when I was a lad and how he taught me the value of money. My dad's my role model. On earth, there is no other man that I look up to and respect more than my father. But there's another role model that I have as it relates to prepping, and it comes from the Bible. And I want to share this story with you and the lessons that I have learned about prepping from this story. It's from the book of Genesis, the very first book of the Bible, and it's in the 41st and I think the 42nd chapter of the Bible. Now, before you stop this video and go, what the heck? I didn't expect to get a Sunday school lesson. Hang with me, all right? Listen to this, because I want to share with you a role model by the name of Joseph that really, really inspires me to stack. So let me give you the spark notes. Joseph, 11 brothers, get all ticked off at him, throw him in a well, pull him out, give him to a caravan, off to Egypt he goes, sold into slavery. He's got a mess on his hands. All right, so that's Joseph. He's in Egypt. He's, framed and thrown into prison and all that bad stuff. And the Pharaoh at the time has a dream where he saw 7 really fat cows and 7 really scrawny looking cows, and the scrawny looking cows came and ate up the fat cows and gone. Oh, that was weird. And then he had the same thing with stocks, right? So Joseph said, Pharaoh, you're going to have 7 years of abundance like you have never seen before. Egypt is going to be rolling in it. Grain beyond measure. It's going to be the most bountiful time you've ever seen. Well, that's awesome, right? But after that 7 years, we are going to have 7 years of the worst misery you can imagine. In fact, it's going to be so bad, we're not even going to remember how good it was. Pharaoh's like, oh no, what do we do? But before he even questions it, Joseph says to the Pharaoh, says, you know what? You need to find someone that is going to be prepared for this. He's going to look at the good times and not just go, yay, good times, but it's going to prep for the bad times. Collect all the surplus, all the extra, and save it for those bad years. Well, the Pharaoh goes, hello? I'm looking at him. You're it. And Joseph's like, oh, okay. And they put a ring on him, and he's like second in command now. He's the big cheese, right? And just like God told him, 7 years came like you wouldn't believe. It was wonderful. The grain was growing. People were living large. This was awesome. Egypt reigned. I mean, it was the best of times. And then, just like God said, and Joseph told Pharaoh, 7 years showed up afterwards that were the worst you could imagine. It was terrible. People were starving, okay? And they came rushing to Pharaoh saying, save us, what do we do? And Pharaoh goes, I don't know, go talk to Joseph. And Joseph goes, well, remember all that extra that I saved? Let's open the storehouses and save your lives. And that's what he did. He had more extra grain ready for those 7 bad years than you can even count. That's what it said. But they needed every last bit of that when those 7 bad years came. Not only Egypt, but all around the world. This famine that occurred during the 7 bad years was worldwide. So that's the story in a nutshell. But there's some lessons. There's 3 lessons that I want to share with you and things that really inspired me to be a prepper. The first prepper lesson is to trust God. You know, even though Joseph went to prison, God had a plan. Even though it was really hard and he was unjustly accused, God had a plan. God took him from horrible circumstances and elevated him to the highest position in the land, second to Pharaoh. So when I talk about, and I have talked about a lot of dire circumstances, end of, economic prosperity as we know it, potentially globally, there's a temptation to despair, to have incredible anxiety about the future. I'm here to tell you that when you trust God, you don't need that. There is hope that goes far beyond prepping, far beyond stacking. There's a hope, okay, that whatever circumstances come, we know that God has it in control, that nothing will occur that he doesn't allow. I put my total faith in that ultimate prep, and it is the ultimate prep. You can't prep for everything. Do what you can to prepare, but then trust God with the rest. That's what Joseph did, and that's the very first prepper lesson that I get from this incredible story. The second prepper lesson. Can you imagine what those Egyptians must have thought when either Joseph or those that were in his charge went and said, that extra that you just got, we need to store it. Wait, what? Are you kidding me? I've never seen such a bumper crop. What is your problem? Don't take my stuff. What? Oh, it must have been so difficult. He encouraged people to live below their means. Think about that. Their means were up here. They had all this bounty and affluence. They could have used it as collateral on massive debt. They could have leveraged all kinds of stuff, gone crazy. Very similar to what we're doing, by the way, in the United States. We're living way above our means. We're absorbing so much debt. The way it was with Joseph is that he took that abundance and he saved it. He prepared with that extra. That's the second lesson. That is huge, okay? We need to do that. It's a simple concept. But unfortunately, it's one that is completely foreign to most Americans. We're taught differently. I remember when I was ready to pay off my mortgage, all right, when I was in my 40s. I was so blessed to be able to save and pay on the principal as much as we can, double down and get that mortgage, paid off. So we had someone come in and they were appraising the house. And they said this. They said, well, you're all set now. You can upsize. You can get rid of this beautiful house you have and get a bigger one. You can have a massive great room. You can have a mansion. A jumbo mortgage. I remember looking at my wife and I'm like, and she looked at me and then I looked back at her and then, no offense, but we don't want a mortgage. That's not us. We don't want to upsize. We're happy. We're content. And she literally said, well, that's not the American way. Well, yeah, of course she wanted to make a commission on a sale, right? I'm sure. But think about that mindset. It's not the American way. What's the American way is debt. Back to Joseph. He had to do the hard thing and resist the temptation to live at or above their means. He lived below their means. People saved for those 7 years. And the third prepper lesson, there was a massive wealth transfer that occurred because of that famine. If you read, I think it's the 42nd chapter, I think, Joseph was able to buy land so cheap because people weren't prepared And they were willing to give anything for food, right? So there was this massive wealth transfer, okay? They were willing to sell their property, sell everything they had to Joseph for grain to eat, to keep them alive. I believe there is going to be a massive wealth transfer that is going to occur when we go through the next recession, crisis, and collapse. I think there's a lot to learn from my role model, Joseph, from Old Testament times. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, hope your day is A-OK.